Hello, everybody, and welcome to the July 26, 2022 iteration of the Kubernetes SIG-Windows community meeting. As always, these meetings are recorded and uploaded to YouTube, so be sure to adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. For anybody new, that pretty much just boils down to be nice to everybody. Let's get started. First announcement is code freeze for 125 is 1 week away. They've actually set times for specific time zones now, and I believe it's around 6 or 8 p.m. PST next Tuesday. If anybody's interested, or if anybody wants specifics on that, but getting pretty close. So I'm planning on talking about spending a lot of this community meeting tracking all the enhancements and possibly PRs that we want to get in. Does anybody else have anything they would like to announce? All right, doesn't sound like it. Next, we'll provide some space if there's any new contributors who want to introduce themselves. Feel free to do so. Either you could just write your name in the agenda, you could just unmute yourself, say hi, or raise your hand. If not, we'll give a minute for that. Okay, let's go on to the agenda. First thing I wanted to do was go over some of the enhancements that we're tracking for 125 and get some status on that. The first one is the node service log viewer. I did hear from Aravind yesterday on Slack, and it sounds like he's on PTO or on leave, and was returning on August 2nd and doesn't think he can address all of the feedback for this KEP by then. So right now I'm going to say it's at risk, but I don't think that this is probably going to land. So hopefully we'll try again for 126. If anybody else is familiar with the status of this, maybe from Red Hat, feel free to chime in. If not, we'll leave it like that. And I'll update the agenda more with details after this. Okay, next was the PodOS field. I was looking into this. I believe that all the code changes, or most of the code changes in the kubelet are done, and there's a PR that actually flipped the feature gate to stable that merged. There is one open PR that's updating some of the rules for the new pod security standard, or I think it's excluding certain fields from being in from having the security standards being enforced if the PodOS is Windows. That's still open, but there's some pretty active reviews from the security folks, from Liggett, and from the docs team about that too. So I think that this is still on track. I will link those PRs in a little bit. Actually, let me get that now. And Ravi's been driving that, and he's working on some fixes. So this PR is updating it so that certain restricted fields aren't getting enforced if the PodOS is Windows. So then hopefully that will merge pretty soon, and then that feature can go to stable. Next was operational readiness. Is anybody who's working on that here? I mean, I know that we're not tracking this like with the release milestones, but I was just wondering if you guys wanted to give a quick update on what the status was. I know Chinchi did a demo of some more stuff last week.
Yeah, sure. So we are keeping the project outside the Kubernetes. I'm sending the chat the repository we are calling this project. So basically, we finished Chichi finished the GMSA group of tests, and I think she finished the networking part as well. And if I'm not mistaken, she was starting the storage part. So it's it's moving, the project's moving, and the coverage of the tests upstream are being increased by her.
Awesome. Yeah, and we really appreciate the periodic like demos and progress updates. I think that's encouraging to see that.
This is a long-term project, like it's a lot of tests, so any help is welcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if we can also create issues in KK and add help wanted to them just to get maybe some more awareness and then link to the other project.
Yeah, so this
If you want.
goes to my next question. Can you bring this to Kubernetes SIGs or some repository? Like this way, like we can officialize and
Yeah, we should be able to do that. We can say that this is a like move this to a sub project and then work on getting a new repo set up for that.
okay, I'll find out how to do that, and
I'll work with you on Slack to do that. I've done that with a couple other, well, with not a with some other repositories.
oh, cool.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be a good place. Yeah, that would also help get some more just eyes on the project. Great. Any other updates you want to provide on that?
No, that's all. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, great. And next was I wanted to go
Hey,
over.
Mark.
Go ahead.
Sorry. The one other enhancement that I think we're kind of involved in is the cry stats.
Right.
And so we're just trying to nail down exactly how and what the structure of the cry call is going to look like. And so we have I have an open PR here, and we're I think we're getting close, but hopefully we can get that in by next week, or we can get those changes merged, and then the cry changes merged as well. But I think we're getting close. Just need to finalize that.
Yeah. So background for people who are on the call is the SIG node is working towards having it so that all of the stats at the kubelet report are just returned from the cry API. And there was an alpha implementation that was done, and it populated all of the fields in the cry API protobuf definition for the Linux side of things, but not the Windows side of things. And then I think James opened up pull request to the enhancement doc to finish up and get the Windows objects populated. So if anybody's interested in that, please take a look. Anything else to add for that, James?
Nope, that's it.
Cool. And I believe that this is staying in alpha in this release and next release, or are they going to stable in 125 or 6? I mean,
I don't know what the plans are for 126, but they're going to be staying in alpha for 125.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else? We've talked about the host process containers before. I'm not really doing much here in 125. We could bring that up in a future meeting. If people are interested. Okay. Next, I wanted to just discuss some like open PRs that aren't necessarily attached to any enhancements that we wanted to try to get merged for 125. I know, Claudio, you've got a lot of different PRs open that fix a lot of different issues. Is there any that stand out, or should we just assume most of those we want to try and get in 125?
Yeah, I think this one that's mentioned there in the PRs needing reviews. That's an interesting issues that we discovered while trying to fix some Windows unit tests for Kubernetes, in which basically the kubelet device plugin watcher was not working as intended. Technically, it was supposed to watch some folders in which some new socket files would pop up and basically register those as new devices and so on. But the way that it was checking if it was a socket or not does not really work on Windows. That's not really how you check it. But we do have some utils functions that checks that bit more correctly. And I did send a pull request which fixes that issue. It's a extremely small pull request. We might also have to cherry pick it to 124 in tandem with another pull request that merged regarding checking the Unix sockets. But yeah, that's gonna solve some issues with the kubelet plugins. In addition to that, I do also have another pull request which adds another interesting thing. Which was it? Nope, not that one. God, I lost the link. 1 second. The other one that I mentioned is kind of adding, to say so, support for pod DNS policies for Windows, which is basically here. I did leave a more in-depth comment about what this is going to mean. So if you have time, give it a read. But basically, I don't know if you know, but basically for pods, you can also specify DNS policy, which has the values, something like default, cluster first, and then cluster first with host network or something like that. I think there are 3 values. But for Windows, in all cases, that's pretty much ignored because we didn't really support it before because we didn't have the code necessary for that. Now, with the addition of this, it will basically mean that the pods that you spawn on Windows will also have the hosts DNS, at the very least, the DNS suffix list, which you have set. And in the default case, it will also have the DNS name server set for the pod with the default DNS policy. Now, as it is, in typical deployments, this pull request will not affect you at all because most likely you have the resolve -conf config option for kubelet set to an empty string, which basically disables that entirely. If you want to enable that part, you will have to point it towards a file, even an empty file, and it will be enabled. As you can see in all the things that Mark is showing. But yeah, in addition to that, do I have anything?
It seems like this should be like if we pursue this, maybe we shouldn't just say this fixes unit tests. This actually updates some functionality, right?
I mean, technically, it fixes a unit test that doesn't pass.
But it
yeah.
also fixes some parity, like feature parity, potential feature parity between Linux and Windows, and changes things. And I
Yes.
believe that if we do this, we would need to update the docs too, because I believe that the docs for Windows DNS say that we always ignore the suffixes lists.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
So yeah, let's. Yeah, cluster. Yeah, so here we say cluster first host name is not supported, and here we say that the suffix list is ignored.
So technically, for cluster first with hostnet option, I didn't really see any change in that regard. It was still behaving as before. I don't know if that's intended or not. Technically, we do have something like that for post-process containers, but I saw 0 changes for that option.
Okay, yeah, let's, unless anybody has any objections, I think we should probably try and get this merged for 125. And yeah, I think update the title to maybe it'll be a little bit more specific. We can do that. We can do that
Yeah,
offline.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the last one that I have, which it's a bit more debatable, is regarding the Windows file permissions, basically.
Yeah,
Um,
I opened this one up. I'm almost wondering if we want to merge, if we want to hold off and merge this one at the very beginning of 126, if we can. I don't know what other people's thoughts are. This one's been open for a while, but
mhm.
I don't know if
I do have another pull request which also imports this, and also has a few more tests which makes some additional assertions that yes, indeed, those file permissions are set as we actually think they are being set. For example, if you actually do not have any write permissions set, you're not going to be able to write anything in some file, for example. But
Yeah, I think oh, somebody else said something. I think my biggest concern about bringing this library is as a dependency is that it hasn't been updated in several years, and it doesn't look like any of the PRs or issues are being addressed. And so I lean towards like bringing in the functionality that we need, and it is an MIT license, and calling that out in the code so that we can make modifications if required, versus taking the dependency on a library that hasn't been updated in several years.
I mean, either way is fine. We pretty much use most of the functionality from the library, with a few exceptions, a few functions that we do not use. And the pull requests that you have mentioned, I think only 2 of them, one of which is not fully functional, and the other one, it's actually a good to have pull requests actually, but yeah.
Yeah, just being able to, like, you know, if a CVE gets found and go ACL or something like that, like how do we make those changes quickly and get them addressed in Kubernetes?
Or just updating dependencies. Oh, but it doesn't look like it has many, but I could see there being secure, like, I think I could see wanting to keep the Xsys updated.
I mean, sure, I think we can
Ooh.
make the coding tree.
Yeah. All right, I think maybe we could talk about this on Slack too, to see what the best path is.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's pretty much it from me. Yeah.
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 All right.
Most of my other stuff is test related or bug fix related or something like that.
Sounds good. I've got a couple of different updates to E2E tests that are in flight, mainly around host process container behavior, but I've got some other updates too. Nothing really major. But does anybody else have anything that they're working on, would like to see in land in 125? That's also on the call. Oh yeah, all right. I think that's the end of that. Does anybody have anything else they want to discuss or talk about or demo? Going once?
Well, no demo yet, but I'll talk about it. I'm working on EKS plus Windows nodes, trying to get some of the EKS UTL functionality brought into CAP A. So if anybody ever wanted that, Here you go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it should be fun.
And
Are
you
you
had it.
Planning on
added the-
demoing that later?
Am I demoing it later? No.
Or are you planning on it?
Yeah, I can demo it later. I mean, we're gonna obviously suck it into our product as well, but I mean, I can show a demo through just booting Cap A and doing what it does. Yeah, I would love to do a demo of that.
And you
Sorry,
got that
sorry,
working
Jake.
for, yeah, so you got that working for cluster API for Azure with AKS as well. So
Yeah. So I got so AKS was a couple weeks ago. I don't remember, and then you guys launched that. So thanks for that. And then I'm doing EKS.
Awesome. All right, if nobody has anything else, I'll stop the recording and can see what